Hi, one and all. I'm Dr. William L. Brotherton, Sr., DC, certified with the Foundation for Athletic Research and Education and the Institute of Sports Therapy and Rehabilitation. And I'm introducing you to Dr. Bruce Grayson and near-death experiences. Dr. Grayson is the father of near-death experiences. Thanks to Dr. Grayson, we now know that I no longer need to fear death because I know I will go on to heaven once my body stops functioning on earth. I know that I will soar out of my body when my heart stops beating for good, and I will soar through a dark tunnel into God's perfect light, where there I will embrace God, I will embrace loved ones and others, and I will experience magnificent things in heaven. And at the conclusion of my near-death experience, if I have one, I will be told it's not my time yet and I need to return to my body. Otherwise, I will stay in heaven. And I know now that when I do go to heaven, it will be for eternity. Thanks to Dr. Bruce Grayson's near-death experiences, I know that you will also be going to heaven. Whether you believe this or not, it doesn't matter. You're still going to heaven for eternity until God decides otherwise, it seems. You will also embrace loved ones in heaven as well as embracing God, God's Spirit. You will have magnificent visions and feelings and touches and sensations in heaven, far exceeding those that you experience on earth. And you'll have a ball for eternity. And so will I. If we're good friends, our spirits just may meet in heaven. And whatever else God may decide. People who have experienced near-death experiences and embrace God in heaven, the way all near-death experiencers have, they include people who have tried to take their own lives, and when they were told that it wasn't their time yet and they needed to get back to their body, they changed their whole life and they were no longer suicidal. They didn't have suicidal tendencies anymore. And as magnificent as heaven is, you would think that they would probably want to get back there as quickly as possible. But bathing in God's love, it took away any desire to take their own life anymore. And according to the psychiatrists that followed the case studies of people who tried to take their own life, found that after experiencing a near-death experience, they no longer had any inclination to take their own lives again. Transgenders who thought that they may have a problem with judgment with God in heaven because they changed sexes, it turns out that's not true. They were embraced and loved just like everybody else. And we know that to be true. So all of you people out there, whether you know it now or not, it won't be a surprise anymore because you're listening to this. And you'll know that when you do die, you'll pass through a dark tunnel into God's perfect light, embrace God, embrace loved ones, and experience magnificent heavenly things and universal things that you'll become part of. You'll have complete understanding of the universe when you go to heaven. If you're not told to come back, you'll stay in heaven for eternity until, I guess, God decides otherwise. But for now, it appears it will be for eternity. We know it's a long time because people are embracing people as far as a couple hundred years old. They would have been in heaven for a couple hundred years because their existence on earth was then, a couple hundred years ago. And also, quite commonly, they would see family members who were a generation or two ahead of them in heaven. And so we know that heaven exists at least that long. And there are also people encountering various entities hundreds of years old. So we know it goes back. You can only assume it went all the way back to Adam and Eve, where Adam and Eve were the second and third people who entered there. Their son was killed by their other son first. That was the first person in heaven. I believe heaven was available. I assume it was. God created heaven and earth pretty much in the beginning. So yes, they must have been there. Adam and Eve and Abel and Cain came later. Well, one of them came first. Okay, so with that understanding, there's no more reason to fear death because we'll be living forever. You just hope it doesn't hurt. That's about it. Now there's another thing that happens here. Well, first of all, let me show you why it is a proof that near-death experiences has proven heaven exists. When these people have a near-death experience, they do as I described, but there are tens of thousands of people recorded as having that exact experience of passing through a dark tunnel into God's perfect light, embracing God and loved ones there, and all the other things I mentioned. It's not possible that tens of thousands of people could experience that same experience without it being an experience rather than a dream. And therefore, scientifically, it is absolutely an experience. To the point that we know heaven exists, we know that God has personal relationships with all of us. We know God's available to all 100 billion people who have ever roamed the earth since the beginning of time, and with the 8.3 billion people who continue to roam on earth. That God has personal relationships in all those places. When churches and various different houses of God gather, mosques and as well, that God will come calling in strength when we call for God in numbers. And it could be in thousands of different churches and mosques and other houses of worship around the world, all at the same time. When you consider that God created the universe, it's made up of atoms, as we find out. Atoms consist of a nucleus and electrons rotating around the nucleus, creating an atom, and molecules occur when various atoms all combine in the same grouping to make a molecule. And we are created with atoms and molecules. All matter is. So the universe is made up of matter, all made up of these little bitty electrons or atoms that you can only see shadows of, I believe, on electron microscopes. That may have changed by now, but that was the case when I was in school. So, and then now you consider all those little atoms making up the whole universe. Well, the whole universe consists of millions of different stars, and each star perhaps has its own solar system like we do. They may have other names, but for the purpose of this show, we will call each star and its system as being each and every star being having its own solar system, just for ease of communication. Well, if God can create the whole universe with millions of solar systems and all composed of atoms which can never be created or destroyed, I think they can be broken up, though. Splitting of the atom has to happen since I was early on in school. I guess it was going on, the atomic bomb. Well, that's World War II, so it's been around for a while now. I assume you can't change the matter associated with the atoms, even if they're split. I think that probably remains the same. You can't create or destroy matter. God just created it in such a way that you cannot do that. So the atoms, the electrons spin around the nucleus of the atom forever. Well, if God can create something as enormous and so beautifully set together as he has, well, he can certainly give personal attention to the 100 billion people or so who have roamed the earth since the beginning of time, and also the 8.3 billion people who still roam the earth. What does this all mean? There are things that I think are particularly important here. Aside from the peace of mind knowing we're never going to die, we'll live for eternity, hopefully in heaven. The other choice is hell. So what would it take? We already discussed what it would take to go to heaven, which most of us will go to heaven according to near-death experiencers. Needless to say, someone that went to hell will not have a near-death experience, nor have they, or has there any been report of that. Instead of being told it's not their time yet, I think they accept the fact that it is their time. Now, if you go there for the wrong reasons, not that there's ever a right reason, but we know specific things that happen. We know specifically if someone kills innocent people, and in doing so says God has a part in it, the Quran and the Bible react harshly to that when you meet your Maker, if you do those things knowingly, or maybe even not knowingly, but certainly knowingly, then you're going to go to hell, according to the Quran and Bible, and you will experience a fire, a burning, continually. The Quran is very clear. Muhammad is very clear about not using God's name in vain to kill innocent people. And they speak clearly that your skin will be continually recovered with fresh, new, lively nerves, so you feel the full extent of burning in a fire for eternity. Can you imagine that? In other words, go and turn on your stove, put your hand on there until your hand starts burning. Imagine doing that for eternity. You don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that. And there's a way to prevent it. Never kill innocent people, especially if you do it in what you say is God's name. Whenever you mention anything about God, about not believing in God the way we do or anything like that, you're using God's name in vain, and you're also killing innocent people in the name of God. The Quran, Muhammad state clearly that if you do that, you're going to hell, and you will have that burning and torture for eternity without having a break. Just imagine all the horrible things that can happen to you, how the painful things that happen continually throughout eternity. And it's made in such a way that you never get used to it, that it's always fresh, very acute pain, but it's throughout eternity. You have a choice. Now, suppose you're told by, well, say ISIS, or, well, we can even go back to the Crusades, where the Roman Catholics, or in England and Europe, during a time where the Protestants and the Catholics were fighting one another and stuff. It applied there too, where people were killing other people, innocent people, in the name of God. We know now that you can't do that. Otherwise, that is a good reason, well, a bad reason. There is no good reason, obviously. But you're going to go to hell if you do that, according to the Quran and the Bible, and you will burn for eternity for doing that. Now, if you think about it today, that's going on today as well, where people are killing infidels. That's assuming that God is playing a role in this by calling them infidels. You're saying that you don't believe in God the way we do, so we're going to kill you. That's very unforgivable. And according to the Quran and the Bible, you're going to hell if you do that. Read up on it. It's very, very descriptive in the Quran, very descriptive, where you will be burning with a fire, and as your skin peels off, new sensitive skin is replacing it over and over and over again for eternity, so that the pain never stops. That's not a very good choice. I sure wouldn't want that. And so I'm not going to knowingly kill innocent people and say that God had anything to do with it. I'm not going to do it either. I'm not going to do it either way. I'm not even, no matter how you do it, I'm not going to do it. Perhaps if other people assume that you're doing it in the name of God, well, you are. If you just call people infidels, that's admitting that you're doing it in the name of God. Muhammad spoke harshly about that. The Bible does too, of course. Pretty much the very, very similar terminology in both. Fire, burning in hell. You know, that's no simple thing. That's not just hot. That's putting your hand on the stove till your skin burns, until your hand goes up in flames. You don't want that. All you guys that belong to the Tellaban and ISIS armies, now with the advent of Dr. Bruce Grayson's near-death experience studies, Now we know heaven. There's no place to bail out here. You're either going to heaven or you're going to hell. And if you do the unforgivable things, it looks like you're going to go to hell. And if you abduct children, same thing. Same thing. Now, the people that are affected here on earth are affected, but we know now, thanks to Dr. Bruce Grayson, that all these people that are abducted, the parents will be seeing the children in heaven again. We know that now. That they'll see them in heaven for eternity, which is way better than, a maximum of maybe 100 years here on earth. Compared to that, tens of thousands of, it's nothing compared to 10,000 years. And 10,000 years doesn't even compare to eternity. We're talking about forever. And you'll be embracing your children forever, which goes way beyond what we experience here in 100 years. So as bad as it is here on earth, it's more than made up for eternity in heaven. And thank you, God, for that. And thank you, Dr. Bruce Grayson, for making it possible for us to realize that it's a fact rather than a belief or dream. That's why we need to celebrate Dr. Bruce Grayson. That's why we need to get him a Nobel Peace Prize, because now if that happens, all the armies of the Taliban and ISIS will know that they are knowingly killing innocent people in the name of God, just by merely saying, by calling them infidels. That's just saying that they're infidels because they don't believe in God the way that they do. Now, I believe in God in all ways. God created everything. God created numerous ways for us to worship God. And I worship God. I worship God probably, maybe not so much with all of the different prophets involved. Probably just straight with God. I just communicate with God directly, like so many billions of people do. Christians will often pray through Jesus Christ. Muhammad warned people about not worshiping God through Muhammad. He said it's all about God. It's not about him. That's why he wouldn't allow pictures of his face in any way available. So you'll notice the portrayal of Muhammad is faceless. So there was no temptation to worship Muhammad instead of God. Muhammad said, worship God, not me. And I mentioned I focus on that because of is ISIS and the Taliban. So I hope that this message gets across. I hope we can end killing. I think for sure we'll be able to do it if this message really gets out. And you know when it will? It will really come out when Dr. Bruce Grayson gets the Nobel Peace Prize, because at that point, near-death experiences will be on the front page of every newspaper and on every TV around the world, including in Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, all through Africa, where the main number, all over the world, because these things apply to any religion anywhere from the Far East to the Far West. There are similar prices to pay for not being a good person everywhere in the world. And for the sake of this show that I have, we call all religions. We call all of the self-fulfilling and building spirits and character type things around the world religions, just for the ability to use that term. And it makes it so much easier to communicate that way without describing the differences between each and every thought of self-fulfillment and self-improvement in this life. So I want you guys to think about it now. If you kill innocent people and knowingly do it in the name of God, according to the Quran and the Bible, you'll be going to hell. And during the Crusades, you know, by definition, many of those people went to hell. And when the Protestants killed the Catholics, many of those Protestants went to hell. And when they returned the favor by the Romans killing the Catholics killing the Protestants in the name of God, heresy and what have you, those people also went to hell. So there's quite a few people there right now, if all of this holds true. If you accept word for word what Muhammad said and what the Bible said. So let me see. Google, are you available? Okay, Google. Yeah. All right. We won't discuss that now. Just go to Google and say, okay, Google, tell me about the punishment for abducting children and killing innocent people in the name of God. Ask Google what the punishment is for that. That's where I learned it. You can check it, same as me. I want all the soldiers of the Tellaban checking this. I want all the soldiers of ISIS checking this. I also want everybody else checking this, because it could apply to anybody. Anybody could say it's for religious reasons that you're killing masses of people, including innocent people. So check on it yourself. I got a feeling those armies are going to be depleted, because you got a choice. Kill me now and I go to heaven. You're doing the guy a favor. And the whole family. Kill the whole family. The whole family gets to go to heaven. Or you can kill innocent people and you would go to hell and the rest of the family go to heaven, perhaps, assuming they didn't do the same thing. Those are your choices. Those aren't very good choices. You just soon have the whole family go to heaven with you. I would guess. I know I would. I wouldn't want it to hurt. But it's really going to hurt if you go to hell and are subjected to burning yourself continuously, or whatever is the worst possible way to do that. I suppose God knows. I suppose that's maybe what happens. So I'm going to keep this show under 30 minutes so I can share it. So God bless one and all. God bless you guys. And hopefully we'll all go to heaven and we'll stop this nonsense. Okay. Bye-bye. God bless.